Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and this is a breakdown of the ending and post-credit scene for 2023's The Flash, a truly wild multiverse event adapting the 2011 Flashpoint comic storyline that went places I don't think any of us expected. But spoiler warning before I continue, I am going to break down the big twists that come up in this movie's final minutes and what it all means. And please support this growing network by subscribing to this channel, subscribing to my deep dive channel for our Spielberg summer slate, and to the break room for instant reactions to all this great stuff. And you can support us with an indie I love you shirt at nerdriot.shop. Okay, so the 2023 Flash movie tells the story of our universe's Barry Allen, played by Ezra Miller, running back in time to save his mother Nora Allen and to exonerate his father Henry Allen, who was falsely accused for murdering her. This time vortex is represented in this movie by what's called a chrono bowl, which is a kind of coliseum of infinite moments in time, kind of like the Tesseract in Christopher Nolan's Interstellar, but circular instead of at 90-degree angles. Barry displaces a fateful can of tomato sauce in a supermarket so that his mother wouldn't be left alone at home on the day of her murder as Henry Allen went back shopping for it. Interestingly, this movie does oddly come down to spaghetti, as Michael Keaton Bruce Wayne later uses uncooked spaghetti noodles to explain alternate realities, and how, unlike movies like Avengers Endgame, branch realities in this movie don't split off from the normal timeline, but rather, when a timeline is ruptured, it skews on a wholly different reality where history had already been playing out differently since before you altered it. An example given is the movie Back to the Future, which in this alternate timeline starred Eric Stoltz as Marty McFly instead of Michael J. Fox. Eric Stoltz was the original actor who played Marty McFly before they reshot huge portions of this movie with Michael J. Fox, but in this timeline, Stoltz apparently was never recast. This is actually something I explain in great detail in my deep dive of Back to the Future, which you should watch along with my analyses of Michael Keaton's Batman and Nolan's Interstellar. Apparently, I've been just reviewing movies that have been required viewing for this movie. Anyway, after altering history and saving his mother, Barry gets shoved in a chrono bowl by this dark presence we later learn, Dark Flash, and Barry skews into a point in time 10 years prior, shortly before he would have gotten his powers. And so Barry reunites with his alternate timeline parents and meets his younger self. Older Barry takes younger Barry to the lab to set up the conditions of his superhero origin, but lightning goes through Old Barry into young Barry, giving young Barry powers while removing Old Barry's powers and one of Old Barry's teeth that he has to super glue back in, which is important because it comes back later. But now Zod arrives following the events of the 2013 Man of Steel and the Battle of Metropolis and the World Engine, so they go to Wayne Manor to seek Batman's help. But Batman in this universe is Michael Keaton. He helps the Barrys track down Kal-El in a Siberian prison, but they discover the Kryptonian is actually Kal-El's cousin, Kara Zor-El. They all escape. Barry and Bruce try to restore Barry's powers, but it fails, and Kara flies him up to get zapped by lightning directly, and it works now. So the four of them together confront Zod, and Batman kamikazes the Batwing against Zod's shield, and he dies, and Kara gets stabbed by Zod because she contains the genetic codex for all the Kryptonians. The two Barrys return to the Chrono Ball to try to play it back again, but Bruce and Kara die again, and Barry realizes that this is a fixed point in time. It's unchangeable, but young Barry won't hear it. He tries again and again. He gets impaled with shards of fuselage, which he weaponized against the Kryptonians. Pretty effective, but it increasingly disfigures him. Having fallen in love with Kara, he just refuses to let her and Bruce die. So then in the Chrono Ball, Dark Flash appears, and we learn that this monstrous Flash is young Barry himself, having aged up over countless eons trying to save Kara and Bruce. He reveals that it was he who knocked our Barry to this point in time to originally start himself on this path. So the Chrono Bowl begins to rupture, and then we see that it's actually one of many differently colored domes and globes, imagery evoking the infinite Earths of the DC multiverse in the comics. And here we see a ton of cameos from DC cinematic history. George Reeves' Superman from the 50s TV series Adventures of Superman, Jay Garrick played by Teddy Sears from the CW Flash series, wearing that Crimson Comet helmet, the late Christopher Reeves Superman recreated with CGI, and at his side Helen Slater de-aged back to her 1984 Supergirl appearance, the late Adam West Batman, and then a sphere with Nicolas Cage Superman, long-haired, the same suit he wore in the famous 90s Tim Burton wardrobe test for Superman Lives, fighting a giant spider. Now, I'm gonna go more into these and what all of these mean and the backstory of all of them in another video, but really just the implication is that all of these past iterations of DC characters exist somewhere in this multiversal construct. So then young Barry sacrifices himself to kill Dark Flash, and Dark Flash dissipates, and all these colliding spheres retract back to their corners. Barry returns to that supermarket to let Nora Allen die by moving the can back in place. He has a meaningful goodbye, but he places those tomato cans high enough so that the security camera will now see Henry Allen's face when he grabs the can, giving him evidence of an alibi to exonerate Henry at his trial. And then after this trial, Barry's phone rings. It's Bruce Wayne, but instead of Ben Affleck in this reality stepping out of the car, it's George Clooney, his first time returning to play Bruce Wayne since 1997's Batman and Robin, directed by Joel Schumacher. Not everyone's favorite Batman movie. Barry drops this movie's one PG-13 permitted F-bomb. Who the is this? Clooney says, hey Barry. Barry stammers some nonsense, and Clooney says, what's wrong with you? He looks around and he smiles, and then Barry, speechless, opens his mouth, and that superglued tooth falls out. And so this Flash movie ends with Barry Allen not back home in the universe of Ben Affleck Batman, but in a different reality, one perhaps caused by him exonerating his father. Power of a single can of crushed tomatoes. Now, when I'm living my life, pumping myself up with the score of my favorite movies, I want to hear that music and only that. And that's why I choose to use Raycon earbuds. Raycon knows that in this economy, every purchase needs to be perfect, and they design their earbuds with that perfect purchase in mind. Fit so good. Their noise isolating earbuds have a battery life of up to 8 hours, plus easy tap controls that let you control what you're listening to without digging your phone out of your pocket. And the sound you get, oh, so good. Raycon's small but mighty team of design audio engineers cut their teeth at brands like Bose and Peloton. If you're not happy with the purchase, Raycon has an easy and free return guarantee, but over 50,000 5-star reviews suggest you will be thrilled. Raycon offers buy now, pay later options at checkout and free domestic shipping, or you can ship internationally for a flat fee. Click the link in the description box or go to buyraycon.com/newrockstars to get 15% off your Raycon purchase. Now, technically, the 1989 Batman, 1992 Batman Returns, 1995 Batman Forever, and 1997 Batman and Robin are all considered to be from the same Earth 89 universe, but just with Batman recast from Michael Keaton to Val Kilmer to George Clooney, because many of the other actors stayed the same. It's just really the production design got crazier and crazier. And notice the production design here, this courthouse, the city block, they just ain't Joel Schumacher enough to be the same universe as Batman and Robin 1997. It's likely a side universe where Bruce Wayne is also George Clooney, just like the side universe with younger Barry Allen had its Bruce Wayne as Michael Keaton. So this brings us to the film's post-credit scene. There's just one of them. Barry and Arthur Curry Aquaman Jason Momoa exit a bar. Arthur's drunk. Barry says, what I am trying to explain as simply as I possibly can, I promise. They were all Batman, they were all Bruce Wayne, but each of them is a completely different person. And Arthur says, so in another lifetime, and then Barry corrects timeline, and Arthur continues, I'm the same guy. And Barry says, yeah, actually pretty much. You're lovable, furry, loyal, motivated by bacon. Arthur thanks him, and then drunkenly face plants into a puddle. Doesn't need to come back up for air. Barry says he lives right upstairs, but Arthur says, Barry, I live right here. And he pats the gutter water. He asks Barry for another beer and gives him one of his rings, Atlantean treasure. Barry walks off, pocketing the ring, as Arthur drunkenly sings, I'm a sailor. Now, they explicitly say that Jason Momoa plays the Aquaman both in this Clooneyverse and back in the DCEU continuity of Ben Affleck. So I think we can assume that Aquaman in the Lost Kingdom won't be this Aquaman who's drunkenly sucking up gutter water, but rather one from the previous continuity of the first Aquaman film. But still, after all this goofing around, we just have to wonder how seriously they want us to take these characters going forward. James Gunn indicated this week that only Blue Beetle will return as part of his DCU Gods and Monsters plan.
I mean, the first DCU character for sure is Blue Beetle, and the first full DCU movie is Superman.
I think the Infinite Earths moment with the colliding chronoballs was meant to convey the DC equivalent of an incursion, and some characters may have been left in alternate universes because some of those spheres smushed into each other. In fact, one of those incursions could have coincided with Ezra Miller, Barry Allen's cameo in the CW Crisis on Infinite Earths event in 2020. So while this version of the Flash may not be in the DCU James Gunn continues to build from here forward, he's still out there in the multiverse somewhere, and based on this geography, not that far away, and with the handsomest Batman. But I want to know from you, how do you feel about the way this movie ended? Subscribe to the Deep Dive channel and the Break Room, and support us by grabbing some merch at nerdriot.shop. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EA Voss. Follow New Rockstars, subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching, bye.